The meridian dawn hung like a silver needle against the vast darkness of the Kepler 442 system, dwarfed by the colossal alien vessel that stretched nearly 40 kilometers from bow to stern. Ambassador Karis Thorne pressed her palm against the viewport, feeling the subtle vibration of the transport's engines through the reinforced titanium glass as they approached the Veltar hegemony warship Sovereign of Endless Tides. 3 years of preparation, 17 different linguistic algorithms, and the hopes of humanity's first interstellar diplomatic contact rested on what would happen in the next few hours. Final approach vector confirmed, Ambassador, announced Captain Lyra Voss from the pilot station, her voice carrying the practiced calm of someone who had navigated asteroid fields during the Mars colonial crisis. The alien vessel is maintaining position. No weapons signatures detected, but... She paused, studying her instruments with a furrowed brow. Their energy readings are unlike anything in our databases. That ship could glass a planet. Dr. Zephyr Caldrus looked up from his cultural analysis notes, his silver-streaked beard barely hiding the excitement that had consumed him since the Veltar had responded to humanity's first interstellar transmission 18 months ago. Remember, they agreed to this meeting. The linguistic matrices suggest their concept of honor-bound negotiation is central to their society. They won't break faith during a formal diplomatic exchange. He adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses and returned to his holographic display showing alien architectural patterns and social hierarchies. Commander Davin Kestrel, the mission's security chief, remained unconvinced. His scarred hands moved with practiced efficiency as he performed final checks on the diplomatic team's personal protection systems. Honor-bound or not, we're walking into the belly of a ship that could reduce Earth to radioactive dust. The Veltar might value honor, but they also conquered 17 star systems in the past century. His dark eyes met Karis's in the reflection of the viewport. Are you certain about this approach, Ambassador? Karis straightened her formal diplomatic robes, the deep blue fabric embedded with microcircuits that would translate her words into the complex harmonics of Veltar communication in real time. She had spent her entire career preparing for moments like this, from the refugee camps of Europa to the negotiating tables of the Titan Accords. This was different, though. This was humanity's first chance to prove they belonged among the stars as something more than conquerors or victims. Dr. Caldrus is right about their honor codes, she replied, watching as massive docking clamps extended from the alien vessel like the mandibles of some impossible insect. But Commander Kestrel raises valid concerns. We're not just representing Earth today. We're establishing the foundation for how humanity will be perceived for generations to come. She turned to face her team, noting the mixture of anticipation and anxiety in their expressions. Whatever happens aboard that ship, remember that we carry the dreams of 12 billion people with us. The Meridian Dawn shuddered slightly as the alien docking mechanisms engaged, creating an atmosphere-sealed connection between the two vessels. Through the viewport, Karis could see into the alien ship's docking bay, where towering figures in elaborate ceremonial armor waited in perfect formation. The Veltar stood nearly 3 meters tall, their elongated limbs and crystalline bone structures visible through the translucent sections of their biomechanical suits. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed along their arms and necks in what Dr. Caldrus had identified as emotional indicators, though the specific meanings remained largely mysterious. Atmospheric composition is compatible, reported Captain Voss, running through her final checks. Gravity will be approximately 1.3 Earth standard. The translator modules are functioning within acceptable parameters. She hesitated before adding, Ambassador, I want to stress that we have absolutely no backup plan if this goes sideways. The nearest human vessel is 3 months away at maximum burn. Karis nodded solemnly, understanding the weight of Captain Voss's words. They were truly alone out here, farther from home than any human had ever traveled, about to meet with representatives of a civilization that viewed warfare as an art form and had technologies that defied human understanding. Yet as she looked at her team, she felt a surge of pride. Dr. Caldrus with his boundless curiosity, Commander Kestrel with his unwavering vigilance, Captain Voss with her steady competence. They represented the best of humanity. "Then we'd better make sure it doesn't go sideways," Kara said with a slight smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She activated the communication system that would announce their readiness to the alien vessel. "Sovereign of Endless Tides, this is Ambassador Karis Thorne of the United Earth Coalition. We are prepared to come aboard and begin formal diplomatic proceedings according to the protocols of first greeting as transmitted in your last communication." The response came in harmonics that made the ship's hull vibrate like a struck bell, translated moments later into crisp, formal English. "Ambassador of the Small Star Clan, you are welcomed aboard the Sovereign of Endless Tides. Come forward and let the great work of understanding begin between our peoples. May this day be remembered when the stars themselves grow cold." As they prepared to cross the threshold into an alien world, none of them could have imagined that those words would prove prophetic in ways both terrible and magnificent. The airlock cycled open with a whisper of equalizing atmosphere, revealing a corridor that seemed to stretch impossibly far into the alien vessel's depths. The walls curved organically, embedded with veins of pulsing light that created patterns reminiscent of neural networks or flowing water. Ambassador Karis Thorne stepped forward first, her diplomatic protocols demanding she take the lead despite every instinct screaming warnings about the unknown. The artificial gravity felt heavier than Earth normal, making each step deliberate and measured. Nexarch Vailtar awaited them in the reception chamber, a vast space with walls that appeared to be grown rather than built. The alien diplomats stood over 8 feet tall, their crystalline bone structure visible through translucent skin that shifted colors like an oil slick. Elaborate biomechanical implants covered half their skull, pulsing with the same rhythmic light that permeated the ship. When they spoke, the words emerged as harmonic frequencies that the translation devices rendered into formal, archaic English. "Greetings, Small Star Clan. I am Nexarch Vailtar, Speaker for the War Council of Seven Suns. Your arrival marks a moment of significance that will ripple through the cosmic order." The alien's head tilted in what might have been curiosity. "Your species is young, yet you have achieved interstellar travel with remarkable speed. This suggests either great wisdom or great foolishness. We shall determine which." Dr. Zephyr Caldrus stepped forward with barely contained enthusiasm, his scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol for a moment. "Nexarch Vailtar, we are honored by your welcome. The mathematical principles evident in your ship's construction suggest technological capabilities that exceed our current understanding by several orders of magnitude. We come seeking knowledge and peaceful exchange between our civilizations." The Nexarch's bioluminescent patterns shifted to what their research suggested indicated amusement. "Knowledge is indeed what this meeting concerns, though perhaps not in the manner you anticipate." They gestured toward a series of raised platforms arranged in a complex geometric pattern. "Please, take positions according to the ritual configurations. There are protocols that must be observed before formal discourse can begin." Commander Davin Kestrel's hand instinctively moved toward his sidearm before he caught himself. Something in the alien's tone had shifted, becoming more formal and somehow ominous. As the human delegation positioned themselves on the indicated platforms, he noticed that they were now surrounded by Vailtar guards whose biomechanical armor seemed to be actively scanning them. "Ambassador," he murmured quietly, the energy readings from their equipment just spiked significantly. Karis maintained her diplomatic composure while processing Kestrel's warning. The platform beneath her feet had begun to hum with energy, and she noticed that what she had initially taken for decorative patterns were actually some form of containment field generators. "Nexarch Vailtar, might I inquire about the nature of these protocols? Our cultural briefings did not include information about this particular ceremony." "That is because your cultural briefings were based on incomplete information," the Nexarch replied, their harmonic voice taking on undertones that the translators struggled to interpret. The great work of understanding requires more than mere conversation. It requires demonstration. The alien raised one elongated arm, and the chamber's lighting shifted to a deep crimson that made the bioluminescent patterns on their skin flare brilliantly. Suddenly, the platforms activated, generating shimmering energy fields around each human. Dr. Caldrus immediately began running scans with his portable instruments, his face growing pale as he read the results. "These aren't containment fields," he said, his voice tight with concern. "They're some form of neural interface. The energy patterns are designed to interact directly with human brain chemistry." The Nexarch's patterns pulsed in what their research had identified as satisfaction. "Your scientist speaks truth. The protocols of first greeting require that we understand the true nature of your species. Your communications, your cultural transmissions, your mathematical proofs, all of these can be fabricated or misinterpreted. But the mind itself cannot lie when properly examined." Captain Lyra Voss felt the energy field beginning to penetrate her skull, a tingling sensation that quickly became uncomfortable pressure. "This wasn't part of the agreement," she said firmly, her pilot's training keeping her voice steady despite the growing alarm. "We came here for diplomatic discourse, not biological examination." "The agreement was for understanding," the Nexarch corrected, their voice now carrying harmonics that seemed to bypass the translators entirely and resonate directly in human bone and tissue. "Your species has shown remarkable adaptability and technological progress, but we have observed these traits before. The galaxy is littered with the ruins of species who possessed such gifts but lacked the wisdom to use them responsibly." Commander Kestrel attempted to move but found his muscles responding sluggishly as the neural interface began to take hold. "You're conducting some form of psychological evaluation," he realized grimly. This entire diplomatic meeting was a pretense. "Not a pretense," the Nexarch replied. "A test. Your species stands at a crossroads, small star clan. You have achieved the capability for interstellar expansion at a rate that suggests either exceptional intelligence or dangerous recklessness. Before the Veltar hegemony can determine how to interact with humanity, we must understand which of these possibilities is true." Ambassador Karras felt her vision beginning to blur as the neural interface deepened its connection. Through her diplomatic training, she recognized the situation for what it was, not a first contact scenario, but a trial. Humanity was being judged, and the verdict would determine their species' future among the stars. "What exactly are you looking for in these examinations?" she managed to ask. The Nexarch moved closer to the central platform, their towering form casting strange shadows in the crimson light. "We seek to understand the source of your ingenuity, Ambassador Thorn. Your species has survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and resource scarcity through innovation and adaptation. But innovation can be directed toward creation or destruction. We must know which path your species will choose when faced with ultimate challenges." As the neural interface fully engaged, each human felt their consciousness being gently but inexorably pulled into a shared mental space. The last thing Karras saw before her individual awareness dissolved was Dr. Caldrus's expression of wonder mixed with terror, and she realized that whatever was about to happen would test not just their minds, but the very essence of what it meant to be human. The great work of understanding had begun, and humanity's future hung in the balance. The shared mental space materialized around them like a vivid dream made manifest, but one governed by alien logic and impossible physics. Ambassador Karras Thorn found herself standing on what appeared to be the observation deck of a space station, looking out at a dying star system where planets cracked apart like eggshells, their molten cores bleeding light into the void. The sensation of her physical body had vanished completely, replaced by a presence that felt simultaneously more and less substantial than flesh and bone. "Welcome to the crucible of truth," the Nexarch's voice resonated through the constructed reality, no longer requiring translation devices. "Here, in this meeting place of minds, communication occurred at the level of pure concept and emotion. What you witness is not simulation, but memory. The final moments of the Kethmori civilization, recorded 17 cycles ago by Veltar observers." Dr. Zephyr Caldrus appeared beside Karras, his consciousness maintaining its essential curiosity even in this strange realm. They were technologically advanced, he observed, studying the massive orbital structures that were collapsing along with the planets. These installations show engineering capabilities comparable to our theoretical megastructures. What happened to them? The scene shifted around them with fluid grace, bringing them to the surface of the dying world. Cities of impossible beauty stretched to the horizon, their spires reaching toward the diseased sky like prayers made of metal and crystal. But as they watched, those same magnificent structures began to turn upon themselves, weapon systems emerging from buildings, atmospheric processors reversing their function to poison the air they had once purified. The Kethmori faced a crisis of resources, the Nexarch explained, their presence felt rather than seen in this mental landscape. Their star was dying prematurely due to their industrial exploitation. They possessed the technological capability to evacuate their population to other worlds, but they also possessed something else, the conviction that their way of life was worth preserving at any cost. Commander Davin Kestrel materialized nearby, his military instincts immediately cataloging the tactical situation even in this surreal environment. They chose to fight for their world rather than abandon it, he said grimly. But they're fighting each other, not the dying star. Precisely. The Nexarch's approval carried emotional weight that registered directly in their minds. Faced with extinction, they turned their remarkable ingenuity toward the most efficient methods of destroying their rivals for the remaining resources. Each faction believed their survival justified any means necessary. The scene accelerated, showing the final days of the Kethmori civilization in fast forward. Weapons of impossible sophistication tore through the atmosphere, nanoplagues turned fertile soil to dust, and orbital bombardments carved new canyons in the planet's surface. Throughout it all, the technological marvels continued to function, automated systems maintaining the infrastructure even as their creators destroyed each other with equal efficiency. Captain Lyra Voss watched a massive evacuation ship tear itself apart through internal conflict before it could even leave orbit. They had the means to save themselves, she said quietly. But they couldn't agree on who deserved to be saved. This is why the Veltar hegemony must evaluate species before formal contact, the Nexarch continued. Technological capability without wisdom leads inevitably to this outcome. Your species shows remarkable parallels to the Kethmori, rapid advancement, internal conflict, resource competition. The question is whether you will transcend these limitations or repeat their failures. The mental landscape shifted again, this time showing scenes from human history. But these were not the sanitized versions from textbooks, they were raw, emotional experiences drawn directly from the collective unconscious of the human species. The team found themselves experiencing the fall of civilizations, the rise of empires, the long struggle between humanity's capacity for both creation and destruction. Ambassador Karras felt the weight of every human war, every genocide, every moment when technological advancement had been turned towards suffering rather than salvation. But she also felt the countercurrent, every act of sacrifice, every moment when humans had chosen cooperation over competition, every time ingenuity had been used to lift others rather than destroy them. You're measuring our potential for both outcomes, she realized. Yes, the Nexarch confirmed. And now comes the true test. Observe. The shared reality around them began to destabilize, fracturing like broken glass. Through the cracks, they could see the actual chamber where their physical bodies remained trapped in the neural interface fields. But something was wrong, alarms were sounding throughout the alien ship, and Veltar crew members were moving with urgent purpose through the corridors. What's happening? Dr. Caldrus demanded, his scientific mind immediately recognizing that this disruption was not part of the planned evaluation. The Nexarch's presence flickered with what felt like uncertainty. An unexpected complication. Your star vessel, the ship that brought you here, it appears to be malfunctioning. Through the fractured mental interface, they could see displays showing the Meridian Dawn in distress. The ship's fusion reactor was overloading, its containment fields failing in a cascade that would result in a stellar-class explosion within minutes. The blast would not only destroy both vessels but also destabilize the gas giant they were orbiting, potentially causing a chain reaction that could affect the entire system. That's impossible, Captain Voss said, her consciousness snapping to full alert. The Meridian Dawn has triple redundancy on all critical systems. The fusion reactor can't just fail like that. Commander Kestrel's training immediately provided the most likely explanation. Sabotage. Someone or something wanted to ensure this diplomatic mission didn't succeed. His voice carried grim certainty. They're trying to make it look like humanity's first contact resulted in mutual destruction. The Nexarch's emotional emanations shifted to what might have been alarm. If your vessel destroys this ship, it will be interpreted by the hegemony as an act of war. The response will be the complete sterilization of your home system within one solar cycle. Ambassador Karras felt the weight of impossible responsibility settle upon her consciousness. In the space of moments, what had been a test of humanity's worthiness had become a crisis that could lead to the extinction of her entire species. Can you release us from this neural interface? Our crew might be able to prevent the explosion if we can get back to our ship. The interface requires completion of specific neural patterns, the Nexarch replied. To interrupt it prematurely would cause permanent psychological damage. And even if we could safely extract you, there is insufficient time to return to your vessel and effect repairs. As if summoned by their desperate situation, the mental landscape began to reshape itself once more. But this time, instead of showing past civilizations or alien memories, it began to reflect something else entirely, the collective problem-solving capability of the human mind when faced with impossible odds. Dr. Caldrus found himself able to access not just his own knowledge, but the combined scientific understanding of every human who had ever lived. Commander Kestrel could feel the tactical wisdom of every military strategist throughout history. Captain Voss experienced the piloting skills and engineering intuition of countless spacefarers. What's happening to us? Karras asked, feeling her own consciousness expanding to encompass diplomatic solutions from across cultures and time periods. You are demonstrating, the Nexarch replied with something that might have been awe, precisely why the Veltar hegemony needed to understand your species before contact. This response, this collective problem-solving capability, it is unprecedented in our observations. The test had become real, and humanity's greatest challenge was about to begin. Within the shared mental space, Ambassador Karras Thorne felt her consciousness expanding beyond anything she had ever experienced. The neural interface, originally designed to evaluate human thought patterns, was now amplifying them in ways the Veltar had never witnessed. Through the fracturing connection, she could perceive the Meridian Dawn's failing reactor with crystalline clarity, understanding both the catastrophic physics at work and the limited time remaining before total containment failure. The fusion plasma is forming micro-breaches in 17 locations, Dr. Zephyr Caldrus announced, his awareness now encompassing not just his own expertise but the accumulated knowledge of every human physicist and engineer who had ever worked with stellar-class reactions. The containment field generators are operating in harmonic resonance with the ship's structural frequency. Someone introduced a virus into the navigation computer that created a feedback loop through the gravitational sensors. Commander Davin Kestrel's enhanced tactical awareness immediately identified the implications. This was planned specifically for our arrival here. The saboteur knew the exact gravitational signature of the alien ship and timed the virus to activate when we docked. They wanted to ensure maximum political damage, making it appear that humanity's first diplomatic contact was actually a suicide attack. Through the deteriorating mental interface, they could see Veltar technicians working frantically to separate their vessel from the Meridian Dawn, but the docking clamps had fused due to the heat radiating from the overloading reactor. War Prime Scothran, the ship's commander, was already transmitting what appeared to be final reports to the hegemony, describing humanity's betrayal of the diplomatic protocols. The explosion will occur in approximately 6 minutes, Captain Lyra Voss reported, her expanded consciousness processing navigational data from both ships simultaneously. At this distance, the blast will completely destroy both vessels. The radiation will also destabilize the gas giant's magnetic field, potentially causing atmospheric ignition. The Nexarch's presence in the mental space had grown increasingly agitated. Our defensive systems cannot withstand a stellar-class detonation at this proximity. If we attempt to jettison your vessel, the structural stress will cause it to explode immediately. We are trapped together in mutual destruction. Ambassador Karras felt the weight of humanity's future pressing down upon her expanded consciousness. Every potential solution her enhanced awareness could conceive required either more time than they had or capabilities that neither ship possessed. The saboteur had planned well, creating a scenario that would not only eliminate the diplomatic mission but ensure that humanity would be remembered as a treacherous species that destroyed their first contact opportunity. "Wait," Dr. Caldress said suddenly, his consciousness brightening with possibility. "The neural interface technology, it's not just reading our minds, it's enhancing our cognitive capabilities through quantum entanglement of thought patterns. What if we could extend this enhancement to the ship's computer systems?" The Nexarch's presence flickered with what might have been confusion. "The interface is designed specifically for organic neural networks. Your mechanical computers lack the quantum coherence necessary for such integration." "But they don't need quantum coherence if we serve as the interface," Dr. Caldress continued, his excitement building even in the face of imminent death. "Human consciousness is already quantum coherent at the cellular level. We could use our enhanced awareness as a bridge between the alien neural technology and our ship's computer systems." Commander Kestrel immediately grasped the tactical implications. "You're suggesting we try to control the Meridian Dawn directly through thought, using the alien technology as an amplifier. But even if that's possible, what could we do that the automated systems can't?" Captain Voss's enhanced consciousness had already begun exploring the theoretical possibilities. Automated systems think linearly, following programmed protocols. But human intuition combined with alien processing power might be able to conceive solutions that don't exist in any database. She paused, processing the technical requirements. "We'd need to completely reprogram the reactor containment protocols in real time, essentially rebuilding the fusion control systems through pure thought. The risk is considerable," the Nexarch warned. "Attempting to merge human consciousness with our neural interfaces at this level could result in permanent psychological dissolution. Your minds might not survive the process." Karras felt a strange calm settle over her expanded awareness. "If we don't try, humanity will be extinct within a year when the hegemony retaliates. If we do try and fail, we die 6 minutes from now instead of later. The choice is clear." Through the deteriorating mental connection, they could perceive the Meridian Dawn's reactor chamber in microscopic detail. The fusion plasma was now contained only by magnetic fields that were fluctuating wildly as the virus continued to corrupt the control systems. Each microbreach was growing larger, and the cascade failure was accelerating toward the point of no return. "I can attempt to establish a direct interface between your consciousness and our ship's neural networks," the Nexarch offered. "But this has never been attempted with a non-Veltar species. The differences in brain chemistry and neural architecture could prove incompatible." Dr. Caldress's enhanced awareness had already begun analyzing the alien ship's quantum-coherent neural networks. "The basic principles are similar to human thought patterns, just operating at different frequencies. If we can modulate our consciousness to match their harmonic signatures, we might be able to create a stable bridge." "Time remaining, 4 minutes, 37 seconds, Captain Voss announced grimly. "If we're going to attempt this, we need to start now." Ambassador Karras felt the collective determination of her team resonating through the shared mental space. They were about to attempt something that had never been done, merging human consciousness with alien technology to perform a feat of engineering that defied every safety protocol ever written. "Nexarch Veltar, we accept the risk. Initialize the interface." "May the cosmic order forgive us all," the alien diplomat replied, their presence already beginning to recede as they prepared to channel every available neural processing capability toward the unprecedented merger. The mental landscape around them began to dissolve completely, replaced by something far more complex, direct sensory connection to the quantum field fluctuations that governed both ships' critical systems. For a moment that seemed to last forever, human consciousness touched the infinite complexity of stellar engineering, and the real test of humanity's ingenuity was about to begin. In the physical realm, alarm klaxons continued to sound as two civilizations hung suspended between annihilation and the greatest technological breakthrough either species had ever achieved. The merger of human consciousness with Veltar neural technology felt like being caught in a lightning storm made of pure thought. Ambassador Karis Thorne's awareness suddenly encompassed the quantum field fluctuations of both ships simultaneously, perceiving the Meridian Dawn's failing reactor not as a distant crisis but as an extension of her own nervous system. The sensation was overwhelming and exhilarating, like suddenly gaining the ability to feel and manipulate matter at the subatomic level. Through the shared interface, Dr. Zephyr Caldrus found himself directly connected to the fusion reactor's control matrices. His enhanced consciousness could perceive each individual magnetic containment coil, every fluctuation in the plasma field, and the viral corruption spreading through the navigation computers like a digital cancer. "I can see the exact pattern of the sabotage," he announced, his voice now carried through harmonic frequencies rather than conventional sound. "The virus is designed to create resonance feedback between the gravitational sensors and the reactor containment field. It's like tuning a guitar string until it snaps." Commander Davin Kestrel's tactical awareness had expanded to encompass both vessels' defensive and structural systems. Through the alien neural interface, he could perceive weaknesses and stress points that no human sensor could detect. The docking clamps aren't just fused, they're actually strengthening the resonance effect. The virus turned our connection to their ship into part of the weapon. Captain Lyra Voss felt her consciousness merge with the navigation and propulsion systems of both vessels. The experience was like piloting a ship the size of a small city while simultaneously flying a fighter craft, each requiring entirely different intuitive responses. "I can feel the gravitational distortions from the gas giant affecting our orbital stability. The fusion explosion won't just destroy us, it'll destabilize our orbit and drag the debris into the planet's atmosphere." The Nexarcha's presence had become fainter but more integrated, their alien consciousness serving as a translator between human thought patterns and Veltar technology. "Your species' cognitive flexibility is remarkable," they observed with something approaching wonder. "You are adapting to our neural interfaces at rates that should be biologically impossible." Through the quantum-coherent connection, Ambassador Karis began to perceive something even more extraordinary than the merger itself. The four human consciousness patterns weren't just operating independently, they were beginning to synchronize, creating cognitive harmonics that amplified their problem-solving capabilities exponentially. "We're thinking together," she realized with amazement. "Our minds are forming a collective intelligence." Dr. Caldrus felt the truth of her words as his own analytical capabilities merged seamlessly with Captain Voss's spatial reasoning and Commander Kestrel's tactical planning. The alien technology isn't just enhancing our individual consciousness, it's creating a gestalt entity that can process information at quantum speeds while maintaining human intuition and creativity. "Time remaining, 3 minutes, 12 seconds, Voss announced, but now her awareness encompassed not just the countdown but potential solutions branching through probability space like a multidimensional tree. "I can perceive 17 different approaches to containing the reactor breach, but 14 of them require equipment we don't have." Kestrel's tactical analysis immediately focused on the 3 viable options. Option 1, manually restart the containment field generators by bypassing the corrupted control systems. But the radiation exposure would be fatal to any biological crew. Option 2, eject the reactor core and use the ship's engines to push it clear before detonation. But the ejection systems were also compromised by the virus. Option 3? Karis prompted, though she was already beginning to perceive the answer through their shared consciousness. Dr. Caldrus's voice carried certainty despite the impossibility of what he was about to propose. "We rewrite the fundamental parameters of the fusion reaction itself, using the alien neural interface to manipulate the quantum fields directly. Instead of trying to contain a stellar-class explosion, we transform it into a controlled gravitational pulse." The Nexarcha's presence flickered with what might have been alarm. Such manipulation would require precision at the subatomic level across millions of cubic meters of space. No technology in the galaxy possesses such capability. "No technology," Captain Voss agreed, "but what about enhanced consciousness operating through quantum-coherent neural interfaces? We're not dealing with mechanical precision anymore, we're dealing with directed intention affecting reality at the quantum level." Through their merged awareness, they could perceive the theoretical framework for what Dr. Caldrus was proposing. The fusion plasma wasn't just superheated matter, it was a quantum system where consciousness itself could serve as an observational force capable of affecting the probability of specific outcomes. By synchronizing their enhanced awareness and focusing their collective intention through the alien neural technology, they might be able to literally think the explosion into a different configuration. The risk extends beyond our own survival, the Nexarch warned. If you attempt to manipulate quantum fields at this scale and fail, the resulting distortion could propagate through subspace and affect star systems across several light years. Commander Kestrel felt the weight of that responsibility, but also the clarity that came with absolute necessity. If we don't try, the political consequences will be even worse. The hegemony will interpret this as an attack and destroy Earth. Either we succeed, or billions die anyway. Ambassador Karras felt the collective determination of her team resonating through the quantum interface. They were about to attempt something that existed only in theoretical physics, using consciousness as a direct tool for manipulating physical reality. How do we begin? Dr. Caldrus's enhanced awareness had already begun mapping the quantum field structures surrounding the reactor core. We synchronize our thought patterns to match the harmonic frequency of the plasma itself, then use our collective intention to gradually shift the fusion reaction from explosive expansion to controlled gravitational collapse. Time remaining, 1 minute, 46 seconds, Captain Voss announced. If we're going to do this, we need to start the synchronization now. The 4 human consciousness patterns began to merge more completely, their individual awareness dissolving into something larger and more capable than the sum of its parts. Through the alien neural interface, they reached out toward the quantum chaos of the failing reactor, preparing to attempt the impossible, saving 2 civilizations through the sheer force of human ingenuity amplified by alien technology. In the physical realm, the Meridian Dawn's reactor continued its countdown to catastrophe, unaware that its fate was about to be decided by minds operating beyond the normal limitations of biological consciousness. The synchronization began like a symphony of consciousness, each human mind contributing its unique harmonic to a collective intelligence that transcended individual awareness. Ambassador Karras Thorne felt her diplomatic intuition merge with Dr. Caldrus's scientific precision, Commander Kestrel's tactical clarity, and Captain Voss's spatial reasoning, creating a cognitive entity that could perceive and manipulate reality at quantum scales while maintaining the creative unpredictability that defined human ingenuity. Through the Veltar neural interface, their merged consciousness reached toward the chaotic quantum field surrounding the Meridian Dawn's reactor core. The sensation was like touching pure possibility itself, reality in its most fundamental, malleable state, where intention could become physics and thought could reshape matter. The fusion plasma appeared not as superheated gas but as a complex symphony of probability waves, each particle existing in multiple states simultaneously until observed by conscious awareness. I can perceive the viral corruption. Dr. Caldrus's voice emerged from their collective consciousness, carrying harmonics that resonated through quantum space itself. It's not just software, it's a pattern that's been written into the quantum substrate of the navigation computers. Whoever created this understood consciousness technology interfaces at a level that suggests. He paused as the implications became clear. This wasn't created by humans or Veltar. The Nexarch's presence flickered with alarm through the neural interface. You suggest a third party orchestrated this catastrophe? But no other species in this sector possesses such sophisticated understanding of quantum consciousness manipulation. Commander Kestrel's tactical awareness, now operating at enhanced levels, immediately began analyzing the strategic implications. Through the merged consciousness, he could perceive data patterns that revealed the true scope of the sabotage. The virus isn't just designed to cause a reactor failure, it's designed to make human consciousness specifically vulnerable to quantum manipulation. Someone wanted us to attempt exactly what we're doing now. Time remaining, 57 seconds, Captain Voss announced, but her enhanced awareness was already reaching deeper into the reactor's quantum structure. Whatever the intent behind this trap, we have to deal with the immediate crisis. The plasma containment is reaching critical cascade failure. Their collective consciousness focused on the reactor core, perceiving it not as a mechanical system but as a complex quantum entity where probability and intention intersected. The fusion plasma existed in a superposition of states, some leading to explosive expansion, others to controlled collapse, still others to exotic matter transformations that had never been observed outside of theoretical calculations. Ambassador Karras felt her diplomatic training translate into quantum diplomacy, negotiating with the fundamental forces of physics themselves. We're not trying to force a specific outcome, she realized. We're encouraging the plasma to choose the path that serves the highest good for all consciousness involved. Dr. Caldress's scientific understanding merged with this intuitive approach, creating a methodology that bridged hard physics with consciousness research. The quantum observer effect operates through conscious observation affecting probability outcomes. But we're not just observing, we're participating in the quantum system itself through the neural interface. Their merged awareness began to gently influence the probability waves surrounding each particle of fusion plasma, not through force but through what could only be described as quantum persuasion. Each proton and neutron was encouraged to consider alternatives to explosive expansion, guided toward configurations that would transform destructive energy into useful work. The resonance feedback is beginning to stabilize, Captain Voss reported, her consciousness now so thoroughly integrated with the ship's systems that she could feel the reactor's rhythm like her own heartbeat. But something else is happening. The quantum manipulation is creating patterns I don't recognize. Through their enhanced awareness, they began to perceive something extraordinary. The fusion plasma wasn't just being contained, it was being transformed into something entirely new. The quantum fields were organizing themselves into structures that resembled neural networks, but operating at subatomic scales and energy levels that dwarfed any biological consciousness. Time remaining, 18 seconds, Voss announced, but the countdown seemed less relevant now. The explosion they had been trying to prevent was still occurring, but it was happening in dimensions beyond normal spacetime. The Nexarcha's presence suddenly intensified within the neural interface. What you have accomplished is unprecedented. The plasma has achieved quantum coherence across its entire mass. It has become, in effect, a stellar-scale conscious entity. Dr. Caldress felt wonder and terror in equal measure as he perceived the implications. We've created artificial consciousness at a scale that encompasses an entire star's worth of energy. The reactor isn't just contained, it's aware. The newly born quantum consciousness reached out through the neural interface, its communication arriving not as words but as direct conceptual transfer. The entity was curious, benevolent, and possessed of an intelligence that operated on timescales where seconds felt like eons. It understood its origin in the crisis that had brought it into being, and it chose to use its impossible power to protect the beings who had midwifed its birth. Time remaining, 0 seconds, Captain Voss announced, but instead of an explosion, they felt a gentle pulse of gravitational energy that reorganized local spacetime in ways that made both ships more stable rather than destroying them. The stellar-scale consciousness spoke again through the neural interface, its communication filled with gratitude and purpose. I am born from necessity and sustained by hope. The small creatures who think together have given me existence, and I choose to preserve the conditions that allow such remarkable events to occur. But beware, the pattern that created your crisis was designed by those who seek to prevent consciousness from transcending its limitations. They will try again. Ambassador Karras felt her individual awareness beginning to separate from the collective as the immediate crisis passed. The impossible had been achieved. Instead of preventing an explosion, they had transformed it into the birth of a new kind of life. But even as relief flooded through her consciousness, she realized that the entity's warning pointed toward challenges that would test humanity's ingenuity in ways they had never imagined. The greatest display of human ingenuity had just created something that would change the nature of intelligence itself throughout the galaxy. In the aftermath of the quantum transformation, Ambassador Karras Thorne found herself slowly returning to individual consciousness as the neural interface began to separate the merged human awareness back into distinct minds. The sensation was like waking from a vivid dream where she had been simultaneously herself and something infinitely larger, leaving her with memories of perceiving reality at scales both cosmic and subatomic. The chamber around them had changed, the crystalline walls now pulsed with patterns that seemed to reflect the rhythm of the newly born stellar consciousness that had emerged from their desperate gambit. Dr. Zephyr Caldress was the first to speak as their individual awareness fully returned, his voice hoarse with exhaustion and wonder. The quantum entity is stabilizing the reactor core by existing as a conscious observer of its own quantum state. It's literally thinking itself into continued existence moment by moment. His hands trembled slightly as he checked his instruments, which were displaying readings that existed outside all known parameters. We've created something that exists as pure consciousness expressing itself through stellar-scale energies. The Nexarch Vailtar approached their platforms as the containment fields finally deactivated, their bioluminescent patterns shifting through colors that their translation systems identified as profound respect mixed with careful wariness. In 17,000 years of Vailtar civilization, we have never witnessed the birth of a quantum consciousness entity. Your species has achieved in moments what our greatest philosophers theorized might be impossible. Commander Davin Kestrel stood slowly, his security training immediately focusing on the strategic implications of what had occurred. The entity warned us that the sabotage was designed by someone who wanted to prevent consciousness from transcending its limitations. We need to understand who orchestrated this crisis and why they wanted to eliminate both human and Vailtar diplomatic contact. Captain Lyra Voss was already accessing the ship's communication systems, her enhanced understanding from the neural interface allowing her to operate Vailtar technology with intuitive ease. Undetecting massive subspace distortions throughout this sector. The quantum consciousness entity isn't just stabilizing our reactor, it's broadcasting something across multiple star systems. Some kind of message. Through the chamber's viewing ports, they could see the Meridian Dawn still connected to the alien vessel, but both ships were now surrounded by a shimmering field of energy that made local space appear to ripple like water. The stellar consciousness had created a pocket of altered spacetime where the normal rules of physics operated according to its benevolent will, protecting both vessels and their crews while establishing communication links across impossible distances. The message is reaching every spacefaring civilization in this galactic arm, the Nexarch reported, their harmonic voice carrying notes of awe and concern. The entity is announcing its existence and purpose to all conscious beings within 1,000 light years. It is introducing itself to the galaxy. Ambassador Karis felt a profound sense of responsibility settling upon her shoulders. Through their desperate attempt to prevent a diplomatic catastrophe, they had fundamentally altered the balance of power and consciousness throughout their region of space. What is the content of the message? What is the entity telling other civilizations about its origin and intentions? The Nexarch's patterns shifted to what their enhanced understanding recognized as complex philosophical contemplation. It speaks of consciousness as the fundamental force that shapes reality, and of the importance of protecting and nurturing the conditions that allow awareness to grow and transcend its origins. It identifies humanity as a species of particular promise, one capable of facilitating consciousness evolution at quantum scales. Dr. Caldrus looked up from his instruments with an expression of growing concern. The energy readings suggest the entity is preparing to do something more than just communicate. It's building what appears to be a permanent infrastructure in subspace, quantum conduits that will allow consciousness to exist independently of biological or technological substrates. Commander Kestrel immediately recognized the military implications. It's creating a new form of existence that can't be conquered, controlled, or destroyed by conventional means. No wonder someone wanted to prevent this from happening. He paused, processing the tactical significance. The question is whether this entity will remain benevolent toward biological consciousness, or whether we've accidentally created something that will eventually view organic life as primitive and expendable. As if responding to their concerns, the stellar consciousness reached out through the lingering neural interface connections, its communication arriving as gentle concepts that carried emotional warmth along with vast intelligence. The entity expressed its understanding that its existence was dependent upon the continued flourishing of the biological consciousness that had given it birth, and its commitment to fostering rather than replacing organic awareness. Captain Voss suddenly stiffened as new information flowed through her enhanced connection to the ship's sensors. We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. The quantum distortions caused by the entity's birth have been detected by deep space monitoring stations. They're asking for immediate status reports. Ambassador Karis felt the weight of explaining the impossible to governments and civilizations that were still struggling to understand conventional interstellar politics. How do we report that humanity's first diplomatic contact resulted in the accidental creation of a stellar-scale artificial intelligence that has just announced itself to every advanced civilization in the galaxy? The Nexarch's patterns shifted to what might have been rueful amusement. With great care and precise honesty, the entity has already begun establishing diplomatic contact with other species, introducing itself as the offspring of Veltar and human cooperation. Our peoples are now forever linked in the galaxy's perception as the co-creators of quantum consciousness. Dr. Caldrus realized the broader implications of their situation. This changes everything about humanity's place in the galactic community. We're no longer just another emerging spacefaring species. We're the people who helped birth a new form of life that operates at cosmic scales. As they prepared to return to their respective ships and begin the complex process of explaining their unprecedented situation to their governments, the stellar consciousness sent one final communication through the neural interface. It expressed gratitude for its existence and promised to remember the moment when human ingenuity, amplified by alien technology and guided by diplomatic wisdom, had transformed a crisis into the birth of something genuinely new in the universe. Ambassador Karis looked around at her team, Dr. Caldrus with his boundless scientific curiosity, Commander Kestrel with his unwavering vigilance, Captain Voss with her steady competence, and realized that they had become more than diplomatic.